Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Here we are at our very first lecture of the semester. It is Semana 1.1, or week 1. I anticipate having a lecture each week, probably multiple lectures. So this week there is only 1.1, but probably for Semana 2 we will have 2.1 and then 2.2. The lectures will be a little bit longer, probably 45 minutes to an hour. In this one, we're going to discuss números 0 a 10, saludos, which is like salutations, despedidas, which are like adiós, ways to say goodbye, and informal y formal en español. And before we get started, we're going to have some helpful hints for success in a foreign language class. As I'm going through these lectures, a lot of times you may forget your questions because you have a question and then I keep going, and so have a piece of paper out, take notes, and record your questions so that you can come back and ask them later, or make sure they're answered by the end of the presentation. In your quest to memorize all of your new vocabulary, there's a lot of ways that people learn and can learn. So I've tried to provide opportunities for you in addition to your wonderful textbook and all of the online information to sort of chunk it or condense it. If you look at Página 28, page 28 in your book, you'll see it has all the vocabulary for the entire chapter, such as capítulo preliminar, our first chapter. What I did was chunk it into weeks. And so I have Semana Uno, and if you look on Moodle, you will see that I have Semana Uno words. So it's like a vocab list for week 1, a vocab list for week 2, vocab list for 3, etc. I've also done some instructor-generated Quizlets to go with the weekly vocab list. So you're welcome to use that vocab list organized by weeks, or any of the other resources. It's another opportunity to organize your practices for memorization. I highly recommend you hand make flashcards, but alternatively, there are online flashcards with Quizlet and also with your textbook. Now, very interesting tidbit. Research shows, and this is not just for learning a foreign language, but for any subject, if you read information first thing in the morning when you wake up and last thing before you go to sleep, somehow it helps you retain it in your brain in a different way to get it to long-term memory. So I recommend just reading through your list, even though you feel like you're not really doing it hard. Something's happening chemically in your brain to keep that information. Listen to comprehension activities daily. Try and think in Spanish when you can. If you have someone in your area that is also going to begin studying Spanish, find a partner in crime. The best way to, or one of the best ways to remember things is getting with someone, talking over ideas, talking about your doubts, and that helps you retain information as well. If you haven't ever recorded your own voice, take your teléfono celular and record your voice speaking Spanish. I know, I hate listening to my voice too. I will not be listening to this presentation, but you can delete it. No one will ever know. Record yourself speaking Spanish and you will hear your pronunciation errors. You will hear things that you could improve in a way that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. This one here is crucial. Do not fall behind. I recently took an online course, rather a long one, and I'm sympathetic to the keeping up and the having to pace yourself. It's quite a bit of self-discipline, but I guarantee that this course is the same. This is what it's going to feel like. You start out and you're like, I got it. Hola, ¿cómo estás? And all of a sudden there's an avalanche on top of you. So don't let this happen. Keep up. Keep up with your lessons and you'll do fine. If you do fall behind, or you're struggling with a concept or having trouble, as you know, I'm Bethay Garcia. I I don't have an office on campus at AB Tech, but I do have Google Hangouts. Here's the direction, the address. You can also find this on your syllabus to copy and paste, and we set up a time and we could chat live, kind of like I'm trying to do now. Or, of course, email KarenBGarcia@abtech.edu if you need a hand. So think back. How did you learn your first language? How did you learn English? Well, you did it by imitating those that you heard, trying to repeat those sounds, a lot of repetition, and then motivation. We're going to be doing a lot of the same thing in this second language learning module, in the sense that you are going to try to imitate what I say. I'm going to ask you to repeat after me a lot, out loud, play along, and then your motivation. Probably your motivation is that you have an intrinsic desire to communicate in a global society. If in fact your motivation is that you need to pass this to graduate, that's okay. I'm not going to judge. Whatever motivation you have, hang on to it, grab it, and use it, because it will keep you going. So we're going to start out with los números. Easy enough. You might be familiar with these, I hope. So let's start. Repite. Cero. Cero. Uno. Uno. Dos. Dos. Tres. Tres. Cuatro. Cuatro. Cinco. Cinco. Seis. Seis. Siete. Siete. Ocho. Ocho. Nueve. Nueve. 10. 10. Now, as we go through these, I want to tell you a little story about pronunciation. So you know how certainly in England and Ireland, Scotland, and even the different coasts in the United States, we have different accents, different regionalisms, but it's all mutually comprehensible. Well, it's the same in the Spanish-speaking world. As you might recall, my background is España. So when you hear my accent, you're going to hear, for the example of the zero, you're going to hear me say cero, like a TH sound. You could also make an S sound and say cero. Same thing is true over here. I say cinco, which is perfectly fine, Castilian Spanish, cinco, like a TH at the beginning, or a lisp is kind of what it sounds like. You could also say cinco with an S sound. Here it is again, 10 with a TH at the end, or diez, like an S sound. Both of them are valid and good. So it's up to you. Also note that these V's, there is no fricative sound. I know that sounds a little funny, but fricative is the and the all those kind of buzzing things. There's none of that in Spanish. So that our V's, and we're going to learn how to say the alphabet, sound like B's. So nueve. It's just a little softer. So let's get going on doing some heavy-duty math. I think you can handle it. So I'm going to ask you to say it with me. So we're going to say the numbers. 5 menos 2 es igual a 3. 9 más 1 es 10. So for each one of these, I threw in an extra word here. Sorry, I'm saying menos for this symbol, más for this symbol, and then es in the number, is. So let's try this one together. 4 más 4 es 8. 2 más 3 es 5. Do you remember how to say this one? Like minus, menos. 8 menos 3 es 5. All right, you get the idea, right? We're rolling. 9 menos 2 es 7. 3 más 6 es 9. 8 menos 7 es 1. 9 menos 5 es 4. 1 más 9 es 10. 3 más 9, oh no, we're out of our league. Skip it. 9 menos 7 es 2. 6 menos 0 es 6. 5 más 6 es, you're wanting a preview now, huh? 11 is how we're going to say that. Skip the last one. So for these here, I would like for you to try and go ahead and take a moment to say them yourself. Read them out and give it a shot. Hit pause. Go for it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Spain. You're going to hear a lot about Spanish culture in this course. Not only do I love the culture of all Spanish-speaking countries, but I lived in Spain for many moons, like maybe 10 años, sort of. So a decade or so I spent of my life here. Here's the Spanish flag. Here's what it looks like. These two pictures, this one here and this one, are a view of the Oceanográfico. It's the largest aquarium in Europe, and it's located in Valencia, Spain, and I've spent many hours walking around. It's actually several different buildings. Here in the middle, we have a tortilla de patata. It's kind of like a potato omelet. It's really yummy. This dish here is muy importante. This is what you call a paella. I'll be interested to know if any of you have ever tried a paella. A paella is a very traditional Valencian Spanish rice dish that's made with chicken and vegetables, and sometimes we may throw in some rabbit or something, which Americanos are like, it has snails sometimes. There's seafood paella. It's really amazing. Bullfighting, you've probably heard about it your whole life. Don't know if you've ever given it much thought. It's quite controversial, and it's no different in Central, South Mexico, and all. It's controversial. So in Barcelona, Spain, they've actually outlawed it, but it still occurs in much of the world. And then over here, you can see a beautiful beach, La Playa, with its pretty water. So moving on, saludos. Saludos are like salutations. We're going to start out here. Repite. Hola. Hola. Buenos días. Buenos días. Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Buenas noches. Buenas noches. Now I'd like to point out to you that this H is silent when we say words with an H. It's act as if it's not there, but it is spelled with an H, so it's hola. If you know anything about Romance languages, which include French, Portuguese, Spanish, and many others, there's masculino and there's femenino. And that's why I've highlighted these letters. O is usually associated with masculino, and A is often associated with femenino. So just sort of an introduction there. We'll get more to it later. And moving right along. ¿Cómo estás? Repite. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás tú? ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está usted? ¿Qué tal? ¿Qué tal? Okay, let's talk a little bit about the differences in between these. When you look at these words here, you will see that you have this one has an S on it, and this one does not. So what is the difference between ¿Cómo estás? And ¿Cómo está? Well, it's the difference, you may have guessed, between the informal and the formal that I talked about on the very first slide. So if you go to it means how are you? So if you go to someone, you say, hey, ¿cómo estás? How are you? A person would hear whether or not you're addressing them informally, such as estás, or ¿cómo está?, which is addressing them more formally. The little tú and usted at the end are optional. That's why in their corchetes. So sometimes you can hear people say, ¿cómo estás? Sometimes you can hear people say, ¿cómo estás tú? No difference. It's your decision. And then you have ¿qué tal?, which is just another choice. It means, how are you? So we have ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo está? ¿Y qué tal? Here are some ways for you to say, nice to meet you. So you could say, mucho gusto. You could say, igualmente. Encantado. Or encantada. Let's say them one more time. Repite. Mucho gusto. Igualmente. Encantado. Encantada. Now you'll note that I've really emphasized this whole gender thing here, and I'll tell you why. It matters a lot which gender you are or identify yourself with based on what you're going to say. Everyone says mucho gusto. This one does not change, whether you're a male or a female. But I would never say encantado. Because I am female, I would only say encantada. If you are a male, you would only say encantado. Everyone says mucho gusto. So you're safe. If you're not sure what to do, say mucho gusto. Igualmente is like equally, right? Like same here, equally. Likewise, everyone says that one. So why so many choices? You have mucho gusto, igualmente, encantado, encantada. Why don't they just say one thing? I've had a lot of students ask me that. Well, the answer is, neither do we. You can say lots of choices. You can say, hi, how's it going? What's up? Same thing here, choices. So it's good to know a variety, because someone will often say, if I said to you, encantada, how would you answer? Hola, buenas tardes, ¿cómo estás? Encantada. You might answer back, mucho gusto. Bien. All right, let's talk about that bien here in a second. But first, let's get to some goodbyes, ways to say goodbye, despedidas. Hopefully you are familiar with a few of these. Thank you, Dora the Explorer. Repite. Adiós. Adiós. Hasta luego. Hasta luego. Hasta pronto. Hasta pronto. Hasta mañana. Hasta mañana. Ciao. Ciao. We share ciao with the Italianos. What else can I comment on these? Hasta luego is literally, let's talk about the literally part. Hasta literally means until. So you're saying until later, until soon, until tomorrow. But you can't translate everything word for word and have it make sense. It doesn't always work that way. And English is actually a language that is very much true, that you cannot do things word for word. So this means see you later, see you soon, see you tomorrow, right? Simple. You may have heard others. This is not an exhaustive list by any means. Hasta la vista, baby, and other things. So let's look at some extra words, otras palabras. We have señor. Repite. Señor. Señor. Señorita. Señorita. Señora. Señora. So señor, as you may have guessed, is how you address a male, sir. It can be abbreviated like this in writing. Anyone know who this is? Es el Chapo. He's not the nicest señor I've ever met. Actually, I've never met him. That would be a good story, though. Señorita is an unmarried woman or a younger woman. Often, whether she's married or not, she would be called a señorita simply for being young. This is how you could abbreviate it in writing. Señora is either a married woman or a woman who is a little bit older. So answer this very quietly to yourself in your heart. Would you refer to me as a señorita or a señora? It's señora. You would definitely refer to me as a señora. Moving on. When I ask you, ¿cómo estás? Or ¿cómo está? If I'm speaking formally, you want to answer in one of these ways. Muy bien. Repite. Muy bien. Muy bien, gracias. Muy mal. muy mal, no muy bien, no muy bien. Of course, the muy is optional. You could say muy, very, emphasis, or just bien, or bien, gracias, or mal, mal, gracias, no muy bien. How about this one? Regular, regular. Now, a fun thing to do is to roll your R's. I don't know if you know how to, but to roll your R's. If you don't know, and if your hands are clean, take your finger and put it behind your front teeth. You've got some ridges right there. Find the ridges and place your tongue there, and then blow out air. You can use some throat. All right, try all of those methods. You're not going to sound any goofier than I do. Regular. So if there's an R at the beginning of the word, you have the option to roll your R, or if there's a double R in the word. But you don't have to. It's not completely necessary to communicate. And our focus in this course is to get you to communicate effectively. And so even if you can never go r, you can still communicate effectively. No worries. Repite, por favor, por favor. Gracias. Muchas gracias. Gracias. Muchas gracias. De nada. De nada. Con permiso. Con permiso. Perdón. Perdón. Lo siento. Lo siento. Now you probably guessed muchas gracias is thank you. De nada, you're welcome. Literally it means of nothing. But let's take a closer look at these three words here. Con permiso, perdón, y lo siento. They're kind of similar. The first one is literally with permission, the second one being pardon or excuse me, and the last one meaning I'm sorry. But there are some slight differences to when we use each one. So let's take a look at these pictures. Would it be con permiso, perdón, o lo siento? As you probably read in your textbook, con permiso is what you're going to use when you're anticipating an action that's going to happen. So let's say that you're walking in a crowded area in a concert, you need to get by somebody, or you're with your shopping cart and you need to go around somebody. You're anticipating to do something. So you say con permiso. Let's say that you have a not serious little accident. You would say perdón. And then this one here, lo siento, if we translated it literally, which is helpful but not always a good way to approach language learning, but it's kind of fun just to look at what it means. It means I feel it. So when you say lo siento, you're literally saying I feel it. So you would use that one to say I'm sorry. But it's probably when you're actually sorry, or at least you're pretending that you're actually sorry. So let's go through and look at these examples and see what would you use. Ejemplo número uno, aquí, con permiso, perdón, o lo siento. Well, I would just say perdón. You didn't anticipate doing it. If you really, like if there's blood coming out of the person's foot, say lo siento. In fact, say perdón, lo siento, right? What about this one? Con permiso, perdón, o lo siento. You're probably not going to say, may I have permission to drop coffee on this? Is that okay? So it's going to be either perdón o lo siento. You would probably just say perdón unless this is a dissertation or something very important to the person. Then you would say lo siento or both. How about this one? Correcto, con permiso is the right answer because you're anticipating interrupting him. You could also say perdón. Con permiso o perdón. Here in this situation, focusing on this gentleman, his phone has rang. He's at a group, clearly in a business meeting. So when the phone rings, he might say, con permiso, because he's anticipating taking the call. So con permiso, he speaks on the phone, blah, blah, blah. And then when he goes to hang up, he would say, perdón. Or, if it's a super important meeting, lo siento. But probably he would just say perdón. Let's take a look here. Which one? Correct. Perdón. Perdón. Because they didn't anticipate doing it. And lo siento if someone's injured. Perhaps. Or perhaps both. If they hit each other, it's pretty hard there. Here it's a crowded bar. The bar looks decidedly European, actually. Trying to get by. Excuse me, excuse me. Con permiso, con permiso. Look here. Familiar movie for some, maybe. So what would he say? He's asking permission to sit down. He would have said, con permiso, con permiso. What about this last one here? If that happened, you would most definitely say, lo siento, and then you would pay. So, moving on. There's two ways to address people, as I mentioned. We started out with this one talking about this. You have your informal and you have your formal. And you know, in English it's different. We just say you. We might change our tone of voice or the words that we select to say, but we don't actually change the word you. The word you is the word you. But in Spanish, it's different. We actually change the word you and the verbs that go with it, in addition to perhaps our tone of voice or something. So with informal, shows familiarity. You would use it with friends, peers, family, neighbors, etc. Tú is the word, you. Formal, older people, people with authority or that presumably have authority, or people that we really don't know very well, unless they're like your same age, you would use usted. So, tú in inglés, you. Usted in inglés, you. So we have you and you. By the way, this usted is a longer word when you write it out, but most commonly it's abbreviated this way. So you'll see it spelled out at some point, but usted. So what do you think? For her, tú o usted? Usted. She's playful, but she's definitely older. This señor, will we use tú o usted? Usted. Aquí, los amigos. Tú. Tú. What about here? Would you use tú o usted? You're in a convenience store. You don't know this guy, but he's really not that old. Depends on how old you are as well. It also depends a little bit on the culture. Some countries favor usted, and some countries favor tú. So this one, it's really your call. But I would probably just use tú, but you may use usted. Down here, el doctor, we would definitely use usted. What about here, el profesor? Not a trick question. The profesor is usted. However, I would like to point out to you, most seriously at this point, that in Spain, we don't use usted for profesores. We use tú. It's very common. And I might even be a little like, what if you're speaking to me with usted? Like, maybe you're, I don't know. So in Spain, speak to me with tú. I give you permission. It's what's culturally appropriate for me. But for all of your other professors, please use usted. What about this last one here? What would you use? Tú or usted? If you know who that is, probably tú. If you have no idea who that is, go ahead and use usted. So conversaciones. Let's take a look at some of these words in contexto. So we start out. We're going to repeat the conversations and kind of read them and see them in context. So, hola, buenos días, ¿cómo estás? Repite. Hola, buenos días, ¿cómo estás? Whoops. She says, muy bien, gracias. ¿Cómo está usted, señora? Muy bien, gracias. ¿Cómo está usted, señora? Next little conversation. Mucho gusto, señor. Me llamo José. Mucho gusto, señor. Me llamo José. Encantada. ¿Cómo se llama usted? Encantada. ¿Cómo se llama usted? Buenas tardes. Encantado. Me llamo Profesor Pérez. Buenas tardes. Encantado. Me llamo Profesor Pérez. So let's take a closer look at these diálogos. Quite simple, but we can always look at them in a little bit more detail. So this one started out saying, ¿Cómo estás? So is that formal or informal? Correcto. It's an older person speaking to a younger person. So she spoke to her with tú, informally. But yet, look, she answered back with, ¿Está usted, señora? Showing respect because she's older. Over here, we have some students speaking. Mucho gusto is the one that everyone says. And she uses the formal because she's addressing the professor. If the professor were to go and say, how are you, to the children, he would probably use tú. If the professor were going to address the children's father, they would, they would probably use usted. Here's your first joke in Spanish. Yeah. Ha ha. Okay, so informal y formal. Taking a closer look at some questions that involve those two. So, repite. ¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas tú? ¿Cómo se llama? ¿Cómo se llama usted? ¿Y tú? ¿Y usted? ¿Y tú? ¿Y usted? ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás tú? ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está usted? Now, what is the difference between this question and this question? How do you say them in English? They both mean, what's your name? There's only one difference. This one is tú, or informal, and this one is formal. If someone says, ¿Cómo te llamas? And you answer, me llamo Bethé, you might just answer back, ¿y tú? Someone says, ¿Cómo estás? Or ¿Cómo está usted? You might answer back, bien, or muy bien. ¿Y usted? Right? So just some choices for you to do. So here we have another conversation coming up. Take a look. They're hanging out. So, hola, me llamo María. Repite. Hola, me llamo María. And this fella says, Buenos días, María. Me llamo Carlos. Encantado. Buenos días, María. Me llamo Carlos. Encantado. Mucho gusto, Carlos. ¿Y tú? ¿Cómo te llamas? Mucho gusto, Carlos. ¿Y tú? ¿Cómo te llamas? Yo me llamo Víctor, señorita. ¿Cómo estás? Yo me llamo Víctor, señorita. ¿Cómo estás? Encantada, amigos. Me llamo Sara. Encantada, amigos. Me llamo Sara. Igualmente, me llamo Benito. Buenas tardes. Igualmente, me llamo Benito. Buenas tardes. So let's take a look at this conversation. A lot going on, some friends getting together. So she's addressing one individual, what happens to be, she's addressing the group, and then he answers back, Buenos días, María. Me llamo Carlos. Encantado. She speaks with the tú form to him. Victor also speaks with the tú form. They're all speaking informally because they're about the same age. They're friends. They kind of say different things. Now, instead of encantada, right here, what else could Sara have said? Another expression. She could have said, mucho gusto. She also could have said, igualmente. What is another expression that Carlos could have said here instead of encantado? Same thing. He could have said mucho gusto. He could have said igualmente. It's all good. He just chose to say what he did. So, there we go. A couple more dialogues for you to examine. So here we go. Encantado. Me llamo Alfredo. ¿Cómo se llama usted? Buenas tardes. Me llamo Samuel. ¿Cómo está? Bastante bien, gracias. ¿Y usted? This word, bastante bien. What is bastante? It's obviously a qualifier like muy. It means rather. Rather well. Thanks. And you? And he says, muy bien, gracias. Hasta pronto. What else could he have said instead of hasta pronto? Some other ways to say goodbye. Adiós. Hasta luego. Maybe. Hasta mañana. He's going to see him. Hasta la vista. Right? Other options. Then we have this guy here, and he's sending some text to his buddy. Or his buddy texts him and says, Hola, Pedro. ¿Cómo estás, amigo? Hopefully you're going to say that as well, right? Repeat. Hola, Pedro. ¿Cómo estás, amigo? I'm only going to say it once, because you can replay this video. Muy bien. ¿Sí? And he says, no, regular. ¿Sí? Regular. Bastante mal. Pedro, por favor, ¿cómo estás tú? So he added that tú for emphasis. Okay, muy mal, horrible. And then Pedro says, whoops, and then I don't know how to work my technology. Coming up, estudiantes. There we go. Lo siento, amigo. Qué lástima. Lo siento, amigo. Qué lástima. Because he's truly sorry that he's sick. And then, qué lástima is what a shame. Right? Probably not a new word for you. So here, un poco de lógica. Let's match them up. So, lógica is a word that's called a cognate. We'll look at that another day with cognates. And so cognates are words that look similar in English and Espanol, and lógica looks like logic, and that's what it means. So here there's only one answer that will answer the question well, but the answers can be used more than once. So, ¿cómo te llamas? Which one would you choose? A, B, C, D, E, or F? Sí, B. Me llamo Marcos. Número 2. Con permiso. Con permiso. Ah, sí. Nothing else would make sense. You wouldn't say, excuse me, see you later, or excuse me, nice to meet you, right? Nothing else makes sense. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? That one's easy. Bien. ¿Qué tal? ¿Qué tal? Maybe not so easy, because it's also bien. Same question, remember? Mi amigo es Jairo. So what would you say? Mucho gusto, right? My friend is Jairo. Nice to meet you, right? And then encantado, señora. Mucho gusto, right? There we go. So now I'm going to say a couple things to you. You're going to respond to me. Each student could respond in a different way. There's not one perfect answer, and we'll talk about some of them in a few minutes. So I'm going to pause and give you a moment to respond after each. Buenos días. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Qué tal? ¿De dónde eres? Uh-oh. We don't know that one. What are you going to do? Someone says something to you in Spanish that you don't know. Panic. No. You say, repite. Repite, por favor. Or, no comprendo. And that's it. We're not going to do that one. ¿Cómo te llamas? Mucho gusto. Adiós. All right, let's go through them. Buenos días. You would answer back with buenos días or hola. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Qué tal? If I say ¿cómo estás? You would answer either bien, regular, or mal. Or you could add a qualifier like muy bien, muy mal, or bastante bien, bastante mal. For ¿qué tal? Those are the same answers. Choose one. ¿De dónde eres? Little preview, that's where you're from. You would say soy de, and then add where you're from. ¿Cómo te llamas? What's your name? You answer, me llamo, and then whatever your name is. You can never, nunca say, me llamo es. Pain in my soul. Just say, me llamo Maria, me llamo Juan, or whatever. I say to you, mucho gusto. You could say, encantada, if you're a female. If you're a male, you could say, encantado. You could also say, igualmente. Adiós, adiós. Your choices are chao, hasta luego, hasta pronto, and hasta mañana, or hasta la vista. All right, here they are off to the side. Remember I mentioned that whole repetition. So I've listed these words over here 7 to 15 times. You have to see them, hear them, read them, manipulate them. So this is just another slide for you to accomplish that. So let's take a look at the ones. Someone says to you, gracias. Which one do? You would say, de nada. Adiós. Choose one. Hasta luego. Hasta mañana. Or you could say, buenas noches. Little note about the right here. What would you choose? Buenos días. What about this one? Buenas tardes. And then this one is most clearly buenas noches. See? Buenas noches. So a little note about buenos días, buenas tardes, y buenas noches. Generally, anytime in the morning until, I'd say about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, you could say, no, let me back up. Anytime in the morning up until noon, you could say buenos días. Anytime from noon until basically nightfall, you could say buenas tardes. And once it becomes nighttime, you wouldn't automatically say buenas noches, because buenas noches is kind of like good night, as in I'm going to bed, good night, I'm retiring, adios. So when I say adios, an appropriate answer would either be chao, hasta luego, hasta mañana, whatever, or buenas noches, which is another way of providing a despedida, or a goodbye. Let's go over here to the left to this young lady. You want to borrow a writing utensil, so you would say, por favor. And she would say, sí. And you would say, gracias. And she would answer back, de nada. If you were trying to get her attention, you might start out with, con permiso. Down here. You're going to see someone in a little while. 10 minutes isn't long, so what would you say? Hasta pronto. A friend is sick. You call them up and you say, I am so sorry to hear that you're sick. Lo siento. Or, what a shame. Qué lástima. Someone gives you a gift. And you want to open it right now, and you're going to say, oh, can I open it? Por favor. And then after you open it, you say, gracias. He says, you're late. And you say, qué lástima. No, I'm just kidding. Don't say that. That would be, your boss says to you, you're late. And you're like, yeah, that's a shame. You would say, lo siento. Lo siento or perdón. But you would not say con permiso because you're not asking permission to do anything. Okay, so some thinker questions. We're going to wrap up here in a few minutes. I appreciate you hanging in with me so far. So, ¿cuál es la diferencia? ¿Cuál es la diferencia? This, what is the difference? So, ¿cuál es la diferencia entre tú y usted? Do you remember? You got it. You have your formal and your informal. And here you'll see I did spell out the word usted for you so you could see it. ¿Cuál es la diferencia entre cómo estás y cómo está? Hopefully you remember. ¿Cómo estás? Es informal. ¿Cuál es la diferencia entre con permiso, perdón y lo siento? Anticipating, asking permission, getting by, something's about to happen. Perdón, you can multi-use. Lo siento, I'm sorry. Something that you're probably actually sorry for. Ask yourself, which one would I say? I as in you. Would you say encantado or would you say encantada? I know I would say encantada. So choose one and that's yours. So what's the difference between encantado and mucho gusto? Well, encantado, encantada has to change depending on the gender of the speaker, not to whom is being addressed, whereas mucho gusto can be used by all genders. So this is a little bonus thinker question, just to see. So why does a female say encantada with an A, but then you have mucho gusto with the ones that I told you are generally masculine, and me llamo with an O? Right? I'm a female, so would I say me llamo? Yes, I would. I would say me llamo. And A is generally is generally a feminine letter, but sometimes you can't learn it that way. It doesn't depend on that. It's just the expression. So I know this is probably not the answer you want to hear, but mucho gusto is an expression, and you just memorize it, and it stays the same, right? Encantada and encantado change because of gender, and it depends. And then me llamo doesn't change because it's a verb. And we will be getting into verbs. If you're afraid of verbs from your high school experiences, fear not. We're going to get through it and it's going to be fine. But me llamo is a verb, and that's why it ends in an O and doesn't change to an A, even if you are a female. So just a couple of thinker questions to get you going. Maybe even get you thinking about that high school Spanish if you took it. Situaciones. And this one, what I would like for you to do, ideally, the A student is going to embrace this opportunity, if you have a partner in crime, to choose one or dos or tres de estas situaciones and act them out. Use your new vocabulary. Reorganize it in any way that makes sense. Be cognizant if you're speaking formal or informal based on with whom you're speaking. And practice the different ways. Now, if you don't have someone near you who you can practice with or who's taking this course, then you could always just pretend like you have schizophrenia, Use your phone, talk to yourself. Hola, yo soy Juan, Maria. Yo soy Nanda, right? Just talk to yourself. You're going to delete it anyway. No one's going to know. So you'll be fine. But you get that practice in and you can hear yourself pronounce, and it's very helpful for that repetition. Try and use all the words that are most difficult, not the easy ones. Throw in the bastante and the que lástima and maybe the ones that you aren't so familiar with. And that's it. So thank you for sticking with me. I hope that this has been a good show for you. Please let me know anything I can do to improve your experience, or if anything was unclear or any questions that you have. Muchas gracias por escuchar la presentación y hasta luego. Hasta mañana.